It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back once again. It is the unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com. The entire gang is here. We are barreling towards a football season that is going to happen. We've just been at practice yesterday morning. We got a chance to go out and check out some of what was going on and how everybody looked once again. And also, big news on the recruiting front. We should probably start there. By the way, good afternoon, gentlemen. Welcome to the program.
Hi, hello.
Thank you very much.
Josh, not for pleasantries. I guess he's really pissed off about the Luther Burden thing. He just wants to get right into it.
I am so excited to talk about this. I mean, this thing that should surprise no one and at the same time is a major storyline. So those are fun to talk about.
I would say it's finally glad to just get it out there so we don't have to be on alert 24/7 like every time someone comes out and says, big news dropping at tomorrow about a 5-star.
We're talking about you, Hayes Fawcett.
Yeah, Hayes Fawcett. So every time you do that, edit boy, we're all on alert, and Bob's wondering if he's ever going to see his family again, and Josh the same, and Eddie and I are just like, you two take care of it. No. But, I mean, it's good to have that behind us. I mean, it's finally happened.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it was always possible. Like, and I know people are like groaning because you're like, Josh, you said it was fine. I never said this couldn't happen. Like, that never came out of my mouth. He was visiting Missouri. He visited Georgia. Like, there's no doubt the kid has been entertaining other ideas for a while. At the same time, it just he handled like I have to give Luther credit. There was nothing sneaky about anything he's done. He told OU everything that was going on. He told them when he would take visits. Those in situations like these where you don't know, you can't get inside the kid's head. You can understand arguments from either side. You kind of have to play the numbers sometimes, and the numbers say generally kids that handle it like that tend to stick. Now, it's not foolproof, obviously, but that is the way that usually goes on. And OU's not going to give up on this. They're still involved. They're still going to, recruit him. Maybe it's a CeeDee Lamb scenario. OU ends up winning in the end. I've talked to Luther a ton of times. His best relationship is Dennis Simmons. He loves Dennis Simmons. So there's something there. At the same time, there are things that OU just can't battle. And I don't know how much that's going to play a role here. I know Missouri has some people that are well connected to his family, and I was talking to somebody yesterday. Missouri and Eli Drinkwitz, Eli Drinkwitz recruits like an SEC head coach. He's going to use every angle he can use. He's not afraid to play the heavy or the bad guy if that's what he's got to do. He's going to turn any key he can turn, and I'm not saying that like he's doing something bad. I'm saying he's using edges that he has. OU would do the same. Like, I'm not faulting him at all. That's fine. The battle with Georgia, we know these things. I'm just not. We're not going to go down that road. That's just a battle OU has to fight, and it's one. I don't know. I don't know that they can win that fight. I mean, I don't know that that's a. If it goes to certain levels, or just things OU can't do. I don't know how to. I don't know how to say it more without saying it.
Why won't OU pay players?
I
understand that's what the board and that's what OU fans are going. That's the initial, common sense reaction, and there's just no other way to say or to get around it.
There are a lot. Again, we talk about this all the time on the pod. There are decisions you can make sense of. Sure. OU loses a defensive lineman to Alabama. Okay. Got it. I get it. I understand. Or in reverse, if Oregon loses a quarterback to Oklahoma, okay, I get that too. That makes sense. At the same time, wide receiver production at Georgia is not exactly what
They're
you
not tearing
usually
it up,
point
yeah.
to. Yeah, that's not NFL production. They basically have A.J. Green, who I think Luther might have been born when A.J. Green played at Georgia.
That's first off, that's depressing. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
they've got
Oh, trust
Hardeman,
me.
and then they've got what's his name's brother
Hardeman,
from
yep.
Alabama.
Ridley, not Ridley. No, Ridley played at Alabama. What am I?
Was it Cameron
Riley
Ridley?
Ridley was
Riley
the
Ridley,
brother.
yeah.
Is he in the league?
I don't know if he's in the
don't
league.
know.
I'm
That's
just
the other
saying
one.
he was a
Okay.
college
I got you.
star. I mean,
I got you.
If you're looking for the biggest receiver names, that was one of the bigger ones that they've
Yeah,
had.
I mean, but you're right. Hardeman's the only other guy of any real note. I mean, in the league. I mean, and that's largely just because he plays with the greatest quarterback on the planet and in an insane offense. So,
I think a lot about Pickens, but we'll just see if he can.
yeah. Oh,
stay with
Pickens
it
is uber
off-
talented.
off the field.
Yeah, I'd say Pickens has to A, stay healthy, and B, stop starting fights with, team members, random, civilians, whatever.
Terry
I've
Godwin
heard
doesn't
he's
do
a-
anything for you.
Yeah, Godwin's a good player. You're right. That's fair.
Javon
But I mean,
Wims. I'm
well.
just looking at the list of guys right now. It's nothing to write home about.
no, God,
Isaiah
I hear
McKenzie.
Godwin and I thought of Chris, and I'm like, Chris didn't go to Georgia. What am I talking about? No, they're. Again, you've got CeeDee Lamb, who, God, how bad is he feeling? Like, he thought he walked into the golden scenario, and now he may go 2 straight years with just a black hole at quarterback.
Did he get the second MRI? I mean, I watched Hard Knocks, but I didn't watch it. I mean, they didn't have that news came out, I think, probably as they were wrapping that production for that week, that he was going to have another MRI. I never heard if he had
I
the
haven't
second
seen
one.
it.
I think he'll be fine
Yeah.
by the end of it. I mean, I'm not overly worried right now.
No,
Although I'm not just a huge Cowboys fan either. But the thing about it is I think that, it almost opens up even more like for the paranoid OU fan of, is this how it's going to be when they make the move into the SEC? Like, how are they going to keep up? I think that's the initial knee-jerk reaction. And then also you look at the fact that the wide receiver position is not what you would want it to be right now, especially in
just so weird.
the 2022 class. And, Bob, I think Bob has kind of been harping on something that it's more relevant than ever in that when you don't have a quarterback in that class, maybe it's hard to keep things together.
It just feels that way. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. You should be able to realize that when you get to campus, you would play with Caleb Williams. You would play with Malachi Nelson. But I guess when you're in the heat of the moment and you're being recruited by these schools nonstop, I just think it's playing a role because 2017, Chris Robinson was there early, and they locked up Rambo, Lamb, and Brown without any issues. 2019, lock up Rattler early. You get Bridges, Hazelwood, Weiss without any issues. Caleb Williams, Cody Jackson, Mario Williams, Jaleel Farouk. And then 18 and 20, you get Mordecai, but it wasn't like that splash of a commitment. None of those receivers are on campus. Outside of Marvin Mims, we don't know anything about the 2020 group. But now there's no one for 2022 because there's no quarterback. I just feel like you need a face of the class. You need that guy that could have talked to these kids to say, hey, you need to stick it out. You need to come with us, and we're going to build something special when we all get to Norman.
I just think it was, look, it was almost inevitable. I mean, coming off of the dead period like it was. By the way, nice job cheating, Scott Frost. You got your ass caught, too.
He's not only is he cheating, but he's lying. We can get into that here in
losing.
a little bit.
How do you cheat and suck?
That should cut your buyout in half if it's proven. Like, if you still are paid a buyout when you inevitably get fired, if you're caught cheating but also not winning, that should eliminate the buyout.
But
just put that in the contract.
It's just like last year, when they signed Mario Williams, I think we all were kind of like, well, good luck holding on to him. Like, Florida kid, 5-star, like how are they going to hold on to that kid? And the fact that they didn't have any visits really helped. And so I just kind of expected this shit to start again. Like, when the visits started happening again and people could go places, it's not so easy to hold on to guys in that situation.
And guys, we talked about this months ago. This was going to be a batshit crazy recruiting year.
Yes.
It was going to, because all these kids committed so early and did all this stuff. I mean, elite guys like Luther Burden could wait as long as he wants to wait at any school in the country. And he committed crazy early. And it was just never, I mean, and he's not the only one. I mean, there's been multiple high-level flips. Like, it's happened all over the place. And a lot of guys are, everybody thought, I believe it's Travis Shaw was headed to Clemson. Well, now everybody thinks he's going to North Carolina. Like, just because he didn't commit doesn't really change the narrative. Like, it looks like Clemson may lose out on a major guy to a school that, frankly, they've got no business losing players to. So this is just this year is wild because all these guys, it's like kids in a candy shop. It really is. Like, all these guys that were just held away from everything for a year, and in their junior year, which is a major recruiting year, maybe the most important in my opinion, and now in their senior year, they just get thrown into the deep end. Stuff's going to happen. Like, and don't get me wrong, it won't shock me at all if the reverse is true for Oklahoma, and they get somebody kind of out of the blue that no one sees coming, and maybe it's a receiver. We'll see.
At the same time, is there still a little bit of I guess almost a feeling out period as far as the way that things are going to go with the transfer portal too, but at the same time, it's like you don't want to just become dependent on bringing a big-time wide receiver out of that every year. Or can you? I guess we don't really know that. Like, I guess in a way, it's you want to push the panic button because they have lost 3 wide receivers over the course of a couple months, but at the same time, not just 3, but 3 top 100 guys. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. My hand's right over the button. I want to push it, but I don't. But I'm not going to.
See, the transfer portal. Oh, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, this kind of goes back to the Cedric Roberts thing, right? This is, you keep recruiting guys even when you think you have your favorites. I mean, if they had still been talking to Brennan Thompson or Andre Green or Evan Stewart, I don't know how the scenario would have played out, but I don't know if now they're at a point. Could they go back in with any of those 3 and try to make up the ground that they've lost in the last 2-3 months?
Oh, I mean, there's no question, and I gotta give a little bit up to our guy Neil Ken, because this is a drum he has beat for a while, that OU tends to jump out of races too early when they get a commitment or 2. Like, man, I think maybe that's not the way to go. Like, you're going to have to – I mean, don't get me wrong. It's always dangerous to use one situation as evidence, but this has been a pattern. There have been some times when Oklahoma felt like they should have had a good backup plan in place and just didn't because they thought they could count on one guy. Now,
kid's word, yeah.
Yeah. Talon Shetron, that's just a freaking anomaly. I don't put that on OU at all. Like, that's just a weird thing that happened. He's an in-state kid, committed early, the kind of kid he is. Like, everything said he should have been in there, no problem. You can count on this guy signing. Luther Burden was always a risk. Always, always, always. Kid from St. Louis, had been to OU twice ever, had, it just, there was no way you could think to yourself, no doubt, Luther Burden's going to sign with us. The rumors have been there since he committed that this wasn't over. So there are times I do think Oklahoma is naive's not the right word, but just overly confident. Like, you can't behave like that. Now, it's hard. I mean, at the same time, I'm like, am I really faulting Dennis Simmons? Like, the guy's got a recruiting track record that few guys in the country can match over the last 3 or 4 years. Like, it's really hard to come down on him. It's just one of those things where when you watch something as shiny and perfect as this wide receiver class looked like it was going to be turn into what it is, that's terrifying. The question for me is, how do you manage Eddie mentioned the portal, and I've said for a while I think Oklahoma wants to look in that direction, but you can't go get 2 or 3 portal guys to make up this class and not potentially run some risk of alienating the 2023 group that looks like it could be even better than 2022 ever had a chance to be.
I guess I just have a hard time looking at, like, and it's different from each individual, but when you look at what Oklahoma has at quarterback or what they have lined up at quarterback over the next couple years, who wouldn't want want to go play for that? When you look at Oklahoma's offense over the last 7 years since Riley's been here, who wouldn't want to play for that? It's almost a little shocking that Oklahoma finds themselves in this position, albeit, 4 months away from signing day?
That's why I hate business decision. To me, that's what Jordan Hudson and Burton.
You're in a bad business if this is a business decision.
That's the business decision
is
you were
this a
making
business
in the first
decision
place.
or a cast decision?
And that's why Mike Woods picked OU. Business decision. He knows now this is what he needs to do to maximize where he wants to go.
We need to send John Taffer after his ass then, if those are the business decisions he's making.
This restaurant's going to be closing, I can tell you that.
You're opening up a bar, sir, and you have too many friends that are going to be drinking on your tab. You're going out of business.
It's just surprising to me.
The thing that's most disappointing to me is it hurts because when Eli Drinkwitz had sent out that Flipmas tweet, I bookmarked it. And every time I had too much to drink, I would go back to it and just laugh at all the Missouri fans that thought it was going to be Luther Burden and it was some 3-star linebacker. Now I have to unbookmark that. I'm not going to be able to partake in that joy that I had in life. Like I have my favorite, all the stuff I like on TikTok that I go back and watch every once in a while. That was one of them. A small piece of joy has been taken from me.
I know this isn't going to be the most popular thing, but I kind of like Eli Drinkwitz like more and more as each day passes. I think he's doing a hell of a job, obviously.
He needs to. What was that show that they had where they would it was the gay guy and the woman and they would redo your style?
Oh, Love It or Leave It or something like that.
That was the
one
Houses.
of the TLC shows?
Yeah, it was one of those. But he needs a makeover. He needs a celebrity makeover.
I think that's kind of what makes him...
Because he looks like an accountant.
I think that's part of his presentation.
He sneaks up on you. You don't expect him.
He wants to look like a dork and sound like a dork,
Boo.
and then he goes, boom!
Josh, did you know that our accountant is a big World of Warcraft lady?
I trust that.
That's
my kind of accountant. That makes me feel better. Yeah, that brings real.
Sooner Scoop's accountant is a big World of Warcraft person.
I don't want the accountant bar hopping. That's not what we need to be into in our social time. We want to be at home, World of Warcrafting.
I will tell you, I got
it's like when Kramer and Jerry's accountant was sniffing in the bathroom all the time.
I got locked
that's
out.
a no.
I got locked out of the our bank the other day. I don't know what happened, and I was worried that we were getting embezzled, and so I had to call immediately and get the account unlocked. But good news, we weren't. All the money was still there.
So for everybody out there listening, the joint account that Carrie and I share, this is the first I've heard of this, so that's only mildly terrifying.
It happened yesterday, all right? I would have had this discussion with you before the pod, but you have children duty today, so.
Oh, yeah, and speaking of the local daycare where Layla goes and sometimes Lainey goes after school, they have closed for the remainder of the week due to COVID issues. So I've got...
Nice.
Yeah, and we're supposed to go on vacation this weekend, so I've got that looming over my head. It's a lot of fun times here, a lot of decisions to be made in the next 48 hours.
Didn't you have a tropical storm bear down on you or something?
Yes. Yeah, well, no, we are supposed to be going to Mexico and going to be in an area that's looking like it's going to get hit tonight with a Category 1 hurricane. Tiffany and I were talking right before the pod, and I was like, it feels like, like the heavens are telling us maybe this trip isn't a go.
Maybe things are getting more and more closer to normal, though.
Yes, another trip ruined for us. It sounds
exactly.
like that's that's more what we're used to.
The embezzlement comment made me think of something. Isn't it idle time is something of the devil?
Okay, stop it.
I'm just saying.
Stop it.
I'm just saying. That is literally just a
I'm going to give out
phrase.
your cell phone number.
That is literally just
I'm giving out
it's
your
a phrase.
cell phone number.
It's a phrase that I remembered.
I'm texting it to him right after the show.
I don't know what you're talking about.
In the words of Sheryl Crow, apropos of nothing. That was just out of nowhere, completely unrelated to anything.
So, outside of that, let's get into some of what we had a chance to see. And I'm going to throw the ball to Bob. I'm going to be the point guard. I want Bob to have his time. I've cranked up your audio so everyone can hear you. Bob went out yesterday and got to see some players practicing. I think the one thing that you noticed was that Wanya Morris was not out there. But outside of that, what were your biggest takeaways from our second 20-minute viewing of OU practice this camp?
Yeah, I think with the second viewing, it was more about taking things in and kind of focusing in on a couple things. Where the first one was just scatterbrain, just trying to see every single person you can.
Did it look like Caleb Williams had passed up Spencer Rattler on the depth chart?
Where this one, I just zeroed in on freshmen and more in particular freshmen on defense. And I think we've been saying this like a lot the last couple of years where those guys don't look like freshmen. That's not the freshman that was on this defense 4 or 5 years ago, but it's accelerated. There are so many faces between Latrell McCutcheon, between a Kelvin Gilliam, between a Clayton Smith. And then you look at Billy Bowman, who you don't expect to be one of those guys, and he might be as jacked up as any of them.
He was
and
jacked.
That was just unreal that he walked right to me right as that picture came in. I was like, holy cow. This is not the guy I remember from Denton Ryan last year. And it's just a credit to what they've been able to do and how they've been able to get these guys like a Danny Stutzman that, just he already looks bigger than some of those linebackers that have been on campus 2-3 years. And it lets you know that as good as this defense has been, the future looks even brighter if they continue down this path, especially with the way they've been developing. It's not just about recruiting, it's about developing. And that's really where they've excelled the last couple of years.
The thing that really stuck out to me, and I posted about this last night, is you look around and you watch guys that, haven't been factors like Joseph Wette and Jamal Morris. Like, they are so locked in, like, and coachable. And, like, I thought Latrell McCutcheon, I had a picture of him. I don't think that was in the photo gallery I put up today, but like all those kids, like they're locked into these coaches and what they're saying. Like it seemed like a very teachable group of athletes,
which is good. I mean, I think that there's been probably a lack thereof over the last couple years, right?
I mean, there's no farting around. There's no. I mean, everybody's very serious. You don't. I mean, you see people laughing and stuff like that, but
sure.
It's never like. It never looks like there's somebody trying to be like a class clown or whatever. Even like the defensive guys. I mean, like the defensive line guys, like over there, like they're over there with Calvin Thibodeau, and it's all business.
Well, when you have as many guys that are going to, be expected to play or be able to contribute or be given opportunities to contribute early in the season, it's almost kind of a I don't want to fall behind. And I think that, when you talk about a true competition among position groups, that's what they have on the defensive side of the football. And, obviously we're going to talk about a bunch of the defensive side because that's who we spent the most time with. But, I mean, it's just like I was telling you guys shooting video. I remember, just 3 or 4 years ago, we would shoot and it'd be like, okay, we need to get this guy, and this guy.
It was a short list.
And we just for B-roll purposes.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you just keep it on.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to get everybody. Because even a guy like a Kelvin Gilliam, he might not be one of the, in that first 4 or 5 group or 4 and 5 guys that's going to play.
Like the 6th guy going through.
He's still gonna be somebody that you want to get video of.
By the way, I did put up the photo gallery on. I'll get it on the front page eventually, but go check it out. I know we tweeted it out, but Kelvin has a couple pictures of Kelvin Gilliam, and you're just like, holy shit! Like,
I mean, it's just it's night and day, and there's not a better example. And it's funny that we say this, and Trey. It sounds like Trey Brown's having a pretty good camp with the Seahawks, but at the same time, it is a night and day difference from what they have in the defensive secondary, and specifically at cornerback. Every one of those guys, and
I'll tell you this, and we always gloss over him, but McCutcheon, to me, like how long he is, how tall he is,
it's incredible.
It's ridiculous.
I thought Joshua Eaton looked really good, and it doesn't sound like he's in that group of 5 right now.
It's crazy. Just and we saw it out at camps this summer. Like there's like Alex Grinch has a type. It's long, it's lean, it's athletic, and he's done it. Like he has transformed that secondary in 3 years.
Yeah. It's just about doing it now. I mean, you can't throw out a guy like Latrell McCutcheon's obviously he's going to have hiccups. He's going to be a freshman. He's going to get beat sometimes, but can they play at the level that a Woody Washington did as a freshman? Or, I mean, as a, I guess, second-year freshman, whatever you want to call last year.
Redshirt. Does anybody know the culprit? I saw people talking about this on the board that I don't know if it was like Feldman and Auerbach filled in for Andy Staples on his podcast.
Michael Felder.
Yeah, it was Felder.
Michael Felder, not
not-
Feldman.
Oh, it wasn't Bruce Feldman?
No, it was
So he was
Felder.
the one that said that he was concerned about the OU defense because they lost Buki.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar
And
with him.
Felder's taking ownership. I don't know if you followed that.
Oh, is he getting
thread.
just
he said
murdered?
he had some bad notes and it got him off the rails, and he admitted he was wrong. He said next week that he would own up to it.
What's he going to do? Is he going to make a donation
I don't
to
know.
the program? What? I mean,
I don't know what
how
that
do you?
means. I don't
You
know
wanna-
what that means.
You want to sponsor an NIL athlete?
No,
Make up for it?
some of those things that were thrown out there, and I haven't listened to the podcast, but it was just like,
But we've talked
Really?
about that, just the laziness of some people in the national media to just regurgitate those old notes.
well, it's kind of like
and then it happens.
Well, it's kind of like the stuff that you saw at the beginning of the season, just like, you go down to Big 12 Media Day or wherever, and it's like the national narrative that's out there is like, oh, OU doesn't play any defense. It's like, that couldn't be further from the truth. You just simply didn't watch the last, 5-6 games last year. All you think about
You
is
should
the
just
K-State
be able to
game.
yell, hey, boy, watch some football, all right?
Yeah.
Well, it sounded like Staples, who's a guy I really like in general, had a few pretty out there moments.
See, I don't think Staples was actually on the
Staples,
podcast.
I think
it wasn't
yeah,
on this
it-
pod.
Oh, okay,
It was
then
on
I
something
misread
else.
it. Then
I
I
think-
misread it. Okay.
Did they say
Okay.
Nicole Auerbach was filling in for him? Or
Yeah,
something
it
like
was
that?
her and Felder, I think.
Okay.
Michael Felder. I'm
Yeah,
not even familiar with
it's
Michael
Staples
Felder.
and Friends. He doesn't do it all the time.
But it's under
Okay.
that umbrella, I guess.
banner. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's my then. See, then I'm doing the same thing. I apologize to Andy Staples. That's my bad.
But it's funny that
I own it. I'll talk about it next week.
you talk about the defensive line, you talk about even the ends, and the most still. And Bob wrote about it Wednesday morning. The most depth right now is at that inside linebacker position, where you literally can name off 5 or 6 guys that could play. It's like, how many's too
That
many
will
almost
play.
that will play. What's
that's-
a realistic number though that can play? Is 6 really a realistic number?
That's tough, man. I
In
mean,
blowouts, I don't see how you could do it in a real game.
Yeah.
Where you're really trying to keep your guys locked in and fresh. Not fresh, but just their mind in it. Like, that's hard to do that rotationally.
I mean, it's almost like you're out too long if you
Yep.
got 3 different units coming in and out.
Agreed. And the other part that begs the question of, does OU, we talk about, okay, well, maybe Agwebu goes early, maybe Asamoah goes early. Oklahoma almost needs them to, because you might lose some to the portal if you get too many guys coming back next year, because what are you going to lose to graduation? White?
What an uncommon thing
And
that
you
would
don't
be for
even
this
know
defense.
that because of the COVID thing. You don't know all those guys can come back again, correct?
Well, I thought once OU designated it, you couldn't go back. Like, once OU had decided, okay, you're a senior, you're a junior, I didn't think they could rewrite that. I could be wrong, but that was I thought that was that's how I understood it.
Well, it was
I
weird
guess.
today because Braden Willis talked about his last year at Oklahoma, and you would think like if he could have added a year, maybe he would have with his injury history, because he just hasn't shown enough on the field yet. But I think most guys, it's kind of like everything else. Most guys have been in college, they've done the college thing. They'll get to it, and if the NFL's if they're not gonna make it in the NFL, they're just not gonna make it in the NFL.
Yeah.
I think that's my prediction for how most people will handle it. But like Mike Woods is not gonna stick around for another year if he doesn't have a great year. He's gonna go.
But, you think even if OU were to lose Agwebu, White, and Asamoah next year, you still have Stutzman, Witter, Jamal Morris, kind of depending on what you think of him, where he can go. And then you got 2 young guys in Kip Lewis and Kobe McKenzie who will both be there at semester.
It's funny.
So-
those are 2 names that we really haven't talked about all year. And Deshaun White, those were the first 2 names that came out of his mouth that said they played well in the scrimmage, in Jamal Morris and Shane Witter.
Witter?
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that all year.
It's
So
okay, Josh.
Eddie-
just get
Eddie's-
ready.
Eddie's trolling the shit out of me right now.
I've already trolled you about him.
I know. Again, the last few days, there's been a lot of hate crimes against Josh in the warm room. So that's.
When you're,
some are self-inflicted.
Slow.
Some are self-inflicted. Yeah, there's no doubt.
That's what happens when you don't answer after 20, texts have gone out.
Kind of makes me wonder if the wall down south was built around Houston or if it was built on the border.
Oh, he's not a Houstonite anymore. He's more Galveston than he is Houston.
That's not wrong.
I feel like maybe I'm the only person that feels this way, but is David Awegbu like the least talked about returning starter?
Yes.
Ever?
Well, but he's not a starter.
starter.
Yeah, I think Deshaun and Asamoah were the starters.
Technically, yes. But I feel like if you're talking about all three of them, he's going to be the guy.
Well, if he's not the starter, I mean, how crazy is this? If he's not the starter and he goes to the NFL, like he could be the highest drafted of all three of those.
Sure.
Yep.
Without, technically being the starter.
And I don't think that that's saying anything bad about Asamoah or Deshaun. Why? Because they've had good camps. Was it Asamoah that they were talking about had just an incredible spring?
I think that's right, yeah.
But I mean that's going to be their dilemma is if any of these younger guys are better than like Caleb Kelly and Deshaun White. I don't say massaging egos, but it'll be interesting like if a Shane Witter is already better than guys that have been on campus 3 or 4 years, how Brian Odom and Alex Grinch are able to navigate a situation like that.
And Josh, you hit on it in Welp today. It's like the hype is real when you talk about Danny Stutzman.
Yeah. That I mean, and I know it's not like I was breaking news with any of that. It was just interesting some of the conversations I've had. I mean, in Woke, and people should, go read it, but there was some and it wasn't so much what someone said to me, but it was kind of the way it was said reminded me of the stuff I heard about Creed Humphrey, where they didn't know if he was going to be ready to play as a freshman, and it not so much that he wouldn't be ready, just that there were guys in front of him that they could give him time to adjust. They didn't have to rush him out there and, kind of put him out there before he's fully ready. But he's so talented that you're like, maybe how do we work some snaps in for him? How do we kind of make all of this work? So, I mean, I think there are few guys on the roster that people are more interested to see what happens when he gets on the field than Danny Stutzman. Like, he has people very excited. And kind of like Creed as well, I think they knew he was good. I don't think they knew he was this good.
The problem now, though, is you've got to manage those 4 games again to keep that red shirt, if you care. I mean, maybe they don't care.
Does it feel like that's not as big a thing to Grinch and those guys?
It really doesn't.
Yeah. I don't think they care. Like,
if you're recruiting at the level that you think you should, I guess is that saying get your 3 years in and then you're gone.
Yeah, you could just be like, well, unless you were injured, the redshirt seniors shouldn't be a thing when you're recruiting at the level that they're going at. Correct.
Nick Saban walks in, he's like, if you're here for 5 years, something's gone terribly wrong. Like, you either should have transferred out, or you should have transferred out, or you should be in the NFL. There's only 2 ways out of here.
This is all so disrespectful to Brian Meade. I can't believe you guys are going down this road.
I'm not buying it.
I'm ready. I want him to make a big play against Western Carolina and Kerry just to be back on. He's like, you know what? I renounce. I'm back in. Disavow all my Brian Meade takes.
Like, I shouldn't be let back in. Like, if Brian Meade goes out and becomes a star, every press conference should start with you, Kerry Murdoch.
And Eric Bailey asking the first question.
Yeah, and I would say I deserve that.
Brian Meade, if you will start out any press conference like that, I will make you my own personal NIL. Like that, I will take it on.
What service is he going to perform? Is Linda in trouble?
Well, I mean, that's a hell of a car ride to clean, but we'll sort something out for Brian. We'll find a role. Everybody's got a job in the McQuistion house.
I wonder when the first personal service NIL thing comes about. Like, you're just hiring a player to come to your house.
Just be like an assistant.
No, just basically to come to your house and hang out.
No, yeah, it's like the
maybe like a personal
celebrity
assistant,
party guys. Yeah.
I mean, I
Saw
guess
the Kool-Aid
you
one
could-
today.
Yeah, I
Look at
did.
that.
That's pretty good.
I thought
Wait, who got one?
Kool-Aid down at Alabama,
Oh, well, obviously.
obviously with Kool-Aid.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
What's the kid's name? Quincy McKinstry or whatever.
Yeah, I
Do
can't
you
even.
do you need a nickname when your name is JaQuincy McKinstry?
Well, I think isn't it technically now Kool-Aid McKinstry?
That
Didn't he
is
change his
such
name legally?
That is such a Key and Peele football team name.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
100%.
That's all
That's awesome.
name team. Like he is the winner of the name team for the next 3 years until he graduates and is gone.
I
mean, it's not as good as the one guy that his name is pronounced by a sound of like dump trucks or whatever, where it's just a series of random noises.
Yeah, that's a great one. What I remember seeing McKinstry in the database because he's obviously he's Alabama, he's a big time dude. OU offered him, and I'm looking at him and I'm like, there were some fans that were like, Rivals got duped again. Rivals got pulled in. This is a Gotch Yarbrough situation where this dude again does not exist.
Oh man,
I thought the Thibodeau stuff this morning was pretty good. Getting the was it United Airlines?
Oh yeah, the Kelvin Thibodeau. Yeah, getting direct flights out of Eugene
to Columbus.
for big road games.
It's pretty cool.
He's got himself a good agent or a good rep. Good
Yeah,
family,
he got the
something.
NFT stuff as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah,
No doubt.
No agents, Carrie. You crazy.
No, I don't know if he's
I
if the
know.
people getting that for him are agents or if they're it's a PR firm or whatever.
Yeah. No, he does
Whoever
some
it
cool
is,
stuff.
I'm sure Phil Knight hired him.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can do that. It's fine. So, outside of that, I mean, it is. I think most people kind of get see the picks. It's just like the fascination that we have that everyone is going to have is with Eric Gray's thighs. I mean, they're just ridiculous, and it's ridiculous because we've seen so many, just freaks around here, even in recent memory. But it is. I mean, it is kind of like there's nothing really exciting about Kennedy Brooks. Like, you can't believe he's as good as he is.
I mean, I still think he doesn't look bad.
No, but that's what I'm saying. He's never looked like a freak
Sure.
of any kind. And he's so good, and you're just like, shit, he's just a really good running back. Like,
Hand up, I'll be honest. I didn't get a whole lot of Trey Bradford or Marcus
I
Major
didn't
while
either.
we were out there.
We only get 5 minutes with the offense.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, apparently they're revolutionizing football.
I
in
will
that
say,
other
though,
5 minutes.
I was out there long enough to see Mike Woods, and
You're not wrong.
I still
You're
can't
not
believe
wrong.
that he's long and
His
lengthy
hands almost go down to his knees. You're not wrong. We
It's
poo-pooed you
incredible.
last week.
He's a freakish looking wide receiver.
Because you see his stuff at Arkansas, and he looks like
He looks like a little slot receiver on tape.
Yeah,
He's not little
no,
by any means.
at all.
I'm excited to see how
He's quite a bit taller than Theo Weiss is.
Is this a bad
He's
comparison?
listed at 6'1".
Yeah.
He's not 6'1".
Are we going with the Jordan Muke stuff again?
No. Oh, did they use that tape measure? They used the bad one again? I almost feel like he's like a longer, and this might be just a terrible comparison, so tell me if it's bad. Like a longer Dede Westbrook. Because I thought Dede was always pretty long.
He was. Remember that West Virginia play when it was the snow game?
Yeah.
Like,
Stiff
you're just like,
armed him.
how is he that fucking strong? Like,
Well,
it was
was also
surprising
just-
when he would shake.
I mean, obviously, I don't think Mike Woods is that fast, but
yeah.
I've kind of always thought that he's like Jeffrey Mead was never just necessarily long as much as he was just like tall and skinny. Mike Woods is certainly not skinny. I wouldn't say.
No.
I don't know if they've had a wide receiver that would be comparable to what Mike Woods looks like.
It'd probably be somebody like Brandon Jones back in the day.
And I always kind of thought Brandon Jones was like big almost.
But that's kind of how I see Mike Woods, like his
Yeah.
body type.
Brandon
might
Jones
be a
almost
little
like
bit
a running back.
A little bit like leaner.
I mean, Brandon Jones was bigger from the waist down.
Pause.
Tell us more.
We'll have to see him in a football uniform.
Phrasing.
God, why did I say that? Oh, well. At least I'm the only one that controls the audio. Oh, shit. Now that I said that, there's going to be somebody that's going to put that out there on the internet, on their phone.
That's all you need.
It's gonna be the ringtone.
No, you
Carrie
cannot.
Saying.
Why can't we download this episode, Carrie? Because you just can't.
Because Mike Woods is bigger. Nope. I got that wrong.
I mean, the one thing that, and we talked about it, but the one thing we haven't really gotten a close-up look at because they are the furthest away, but, just not getting to see much of the offensive lines has been the only thing that's really sucked.
Yeah.
And we haven't really seen, you can kind of see the safeties just because they're running all over the place, but, yeah, that offensive line is just, and it's not like we're going to get to see, the only thing that you would really be able to judge them on is if you, in the old days, we got to watch the inside drills and stuff like that, which it was just organized criminal activity, essentially, just people trying to murder each other. And it was fantastic to watch. I don't think they even probably do inside drills anymore, the way things have gone. But that was the most brutal thing that you would ever see, unless you were back in the olden times.
The one thing that Bob you did catch on Tuesday was the fact that Wanye wasn't dressed out.
Yeah, I mean, he had his jersey and shorts, but he wasn't in pads. I'm not sure how big of a deal that is. And that's kind of what sucked, too, is that even if you want to watch the offensive line from as far away as we were, they go through their drill so nonchalant. Not nonchalant.
It's like half
speed. It takes
speed.
a while to get through it, where you're missing out on a lot of other things if you really want to stay and focus on that one group.
There's a lot of resetting and walking through, and you're not really getting anything really that's telling you, oh, he's really it's almost like you have to Zapruder the footage they put out to see who's on the offensive line to really get anything. So, all right,
Eddie, do you know who Zapruder is?
Yeah.
He's a film guy. I mean, he's a videographer,
camera guy for JFK when he was allegedly killed.
And he's also a conspiracy guy. So
that's why I said allegedly.
Right up Eddie's alley.
I didn't know we had that guy. Okay,
that's why I said allegedly.
We
it's
have
not
that in common.
It's not like you asked him how many of Robert De Niro's movies have you seen.
Mm-hmm. I guess I feel like Eddie likes sports. I don't feel like a lot of other things capture his interest. So I
don't know if that's good or a burn.
No, I don't mean that like a bad thing. He likes that's a good thing for his profession. That makes all the sense in the world.
Eddie likes sports.
Sports and infidelities of former presidents. That's my that's my wheelhouse. That's why I like JFK.
I can see that.
He was Eskimo Brothers with his actual brother. They both banged Marilyn Monroe.
And who was the Yankee that married her?
Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool to say you're Eskimo brother with Joe DiMaggio back in the day, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we talked to players today. We'll talk to more players tomorrow. It's interesting to see kind of. We've talked about the pay-per-view was announced. It wouldn't
be cool to say that you're Eskimo Brothers of J. Edgar Hoover, though.
No, it would not.
Because he was banging dudes.
Yes, that's correct. Is that on your computer screen right now?
I just thought about it.
Just wondering how that popped into your head.
Are you watching the league while we record?
It kind of goes with the JFK flow, though.
So the first game was announced 6 p.m. It will be pay-per-view.
First home game.
First home game. Well, yeah, 6 p.m. First game is at Tulane. And there's been so it was a really weird thing because I think I brought it up on the pod. What if, things got really bad in New Orleans and they moved the game to Norman, and Chris Plank did the same thing on his Fox show, just thinking out loud. And I think it started this mini of, because he texted me one morning, he was like, have you heard anything about the Tulane game moving to Norman? And I was like, no, but I heard that you said that, and I said that too, and I was just pulling it out of my ass. There was no one telling me. So all of a sudden, I think we conspired to make this rumor that the game might be moved to OU, which I've heard none of that.
Yeah, it seems like that would be a lot, wouldn't it?
Well, you're getting pretty close. I mean, moving it now would be difficult with all the logistics of doing that.
I mean,
Coastal Carolina and BYU was made in a week. It can happen.
Sure.
Yeah, sure, it can happen.
And I think if there's anything we've learned over the last year and a half, being able to stay flexible as far as scheduling goes is probably a good thing. But at the same time,
I would say looking at Oklahoma's numbers, Louisiana's like, we're not any better there than we are here.
I just go back to the Lollapalooza thing. That is a perfect example that things can be done wherever, whenever in this country if you just take the proper precautions.
And it doesn't have to become a super spreader.
Right.
Yeah.
I really I'm kind of at the end of the trail here. It's like it can be done. Everybody just needs to be a little responsible.
Yeah, so I don't see it happening. Outside of that, I don't see OU having to limit capacity or anything like that, or any plans for that being in effect. So
no, and at the same time, though, it's like you might have to have a concession that maybe you wear a mask during the game, and I know that's going to suck for a lot of people. I would be just as pissed for anybody, but at the same time, it just kind of
sure
it
we'll
is
have
what
to
it is.
wear them in the press box.
Yeah, I have no idea how that whole situation is going to unfold.
And same to you guys, same to fans. Ask yourself, would you rather have to wear the damn mask or not be at the game at all? Like, you'd rather wear the mask.
You've never sounded more like a dad than just now.
It's just, ugh. Yeah.
That sounds like a speech that you use with your daughters when they won't do something. Or don't want to do something.
We crack skulls around here. We don't talk about things. We just do what Dad says.
I don't believe that one bit.
No.
Laney, I got a pretty good chance.
Me,
Layla's going to do whatever the damn well she wants to.
Yeah, you seem like the biggest pushover that there is. I mean,
oh no, Dad is the authority in the house for sure. Tiffany will let them get away with bloody murder.
Oh, okay.
I'm definitely the heavy. Both,
Same. Yep.
Yeah.
That's the dad role.
Exactly. What
is Pearl doing though? That's so awful. Like,
yeah, I feel like all your kids are always going to be good.
She can do stuff.
He's
climbing and knows when she's doing bad stuff and doesn't care.
She's
trying to break my laptop.
Grounded
That's
this
the one thing
weekend.
She's trying to do.
Give me your phone.
All right, Dad Pod brought to you by Gerber. So, Josh, we start the show talking about Luther Burden, and we kind of had those discussions, where does OU go from here? But let's just lay that out. Like, essentially it sounds to me like if I'm listening on the outside, the way that you talked about it, OU's done. They're not going to get Luther Burden. Is that the way you feel about it?
I would give it a 10-15% chance. It's not impossible, but it sure doesn't feel like that's the direction this is moving. When CeeDee Lamb decommitted, there was still a definite feeling of this could turn out. This is probably going to be okay. And we can go down the list of other guys. Same deal. There's still a chance here that this door hasn't closed. OU's not closing the door because, again, I don't think there are some situations where OU is – I think Jordan Hudson's a perfectly good example. OU was kind of the opinion it's not worth the headache because they had to do all this, and then for a kid to pick SMU, it just felt like something was never right there, like just whatever. Luther Burden is good enough to keep up the pursuit. Yes, keep making that run, keep making that effort. I don't know that it's going to matter. I don't think it will. But, I don't think OU has any hostility about it. It's just kind of this didn't go the way we wanted it to. So they'll keep working on it. But, yeah, I don't expect that to really change as far as where I don't think OU is going to make any big run or turn the table with him. I know talking to some people yesterday, I talked to people from Missouri and Georgia. Missouri people thought it was Missouri. Georgia people, I think, were a little more open-ended, but kind of thought it was Georgia. And talking to some sources, I got the impression that OU thought it was Georgia. That's what this is about. So we'll see. Again, Missouri has some connections with him that I think are hard to replicate for other schools. But at the same time, is it enough to change anything? I don't know.
Do you see them just kind of going out and getting some evaluated guys?
That would be kind of my guess. And the reason, and I don't think they're going to go crazy. I don't think OU feels this compulsion. We're going to go fill all 3 spots that were Talon Chetron, Jordan Hudson, and Luther Burden. I don't think that's the way that's going to go. I think it's 1 or 2 guys that they decide they like, maybe have a good start to their senior year. The nice problem is this isn't the offensive line. This is wide receiver. OU can go recruit just about any receiver in the country, as they've shown. And secondly, you can find good receivers. You can find receivers you can win with at this point in the game. Offensive line, it's going to be pretty tough to find 3 or 4 offensive linemen who emerge at this time of year that are actually championship caliber players. Wide receiver, there's just more of them. There's more of them. They're easier to find. And let's be honest, the evaluation is much more direct. So I think they can be okay, but I would expect it to be 1 or 2 guys that they like. I mean, they're still going to work on Evan Stewart. I mean, they're still trying that. Again, I don't think anything comes of that. I think DJ Allen, kid that just committed to TCU from Gladewater, Texas, is really interesting. I like him a lot. I think that could be that could make some sense. There's another kid, a Rivals 250 kid out of Missouri City in the Houston area, Chris Marshall. That makes some sense. I mean, there are avenues OU can go down, and even in areas that are absolutely familiar to OU. So I think they're going to find a guy or 2 they really like, focus there, and then maybe look to the portal to fill up any holes that are remaining. Whether it's from filling these 3 spots or guys that choose to transfer out or go to the NFL draft or whatever. I don't think OU is going to go crazy because I think they like where they are in 2023. Now, again, it's the same risk, but at the same time, you can't just live in the portal and live with, okay, our evaluations are better than everybody else. At some point, you got to go get the elite guys. You got to trust that you can do it. And in 2023, you've got Malachi Nelson. That seems really solid. Well, the two of the receivers you're hoping to get are 2 of his now teammates. One's already committed. So you got to feel pretty good there. Brandon Ennis, OU's, we'll get into that in a second with his decision coming on Sunday. There's plenty of reason for optimism there. His relationship with Trayon Webb, I know he's been talking to Malachi Nelson for a long time now. So there's a lot there that kind of binds it. And I was talking to somebody, and I know this is a longer answer than you were planning for, but
people love
I was talking to somebody.
So I know.
I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, what's going on? What's making 2023 so special? And it was basically, we got a quarterback. We've got a quarterback that can round all this up. We can point to him and say, this is our guy. This is the guy we're going to go win a national championship with. This is the guy going to be delivering, the football. All these things, all the boxes you need to check, they've got a quarterback here. So now maybe Oklahoma's going to figure out what to do in even years. Yeah, maybe they're going to figure out what to do in even years when apparently they're not recruiting quarterbacks. But this year it feels like this. Don't get me wrong, there'll be a decommitment or 2. That's going to happen. But I don't think it's going to be like what you've seen happen at receiver in 2022.
Am I the only one that just doesn't make sense? Like why it's so important that you have a quarterback in each class. I know that on the surface that sounds really stupid, but I just don't understand how somebody wouldn't look at like the total product. It's not a given you're going to play with that quarterback once you get on campus, especially if it's a situation like Oklahoma has with Caleb Williams.
You would think as a receiver, you'd almost like to be the year behind the quarterback.
Right.
I don't want to come in with him and learn with him. I want to be there once he's got it down, and then I just go catch touchdown passes. I mean, because again, guys, we've talked about it forever. Running back and wide receiver, there's no position where it is easier to come in as a freshman and make an impact. Those are not. I mean, I'm not saying they're easy, but it's much more of a physical development is the problem rather than like an offensive lineman having to learn all the calls and, what we're trying to identify, or obviously a quarterback with all they've got to process. It's just different. Wide receiver, running back, it's largely can you do it or can you not?
Just feels like you go on these visits and you don't have a quarterback as your ringleader. It just does something. The receivers want that attention. That's sort of how that position has always been. And I just even like the Champ U thing. There was no quarterback. Like, what did those? And they really didn't even have the 2022 guys there to begin with. It's a different feeling when you don't have a quarterback, when you can't see that long-term perspective, what's really out there when you're entrenched in the heat of the moment and trying to make a decision.
So, Josh, I guess, what we take from this is that you're going to Mexico, so OU has no shot at Brandon Ennis, or you wouldn't be going.
I would guess most of the board would come out exactly the opposite. Pretty much every time I leave, commitments seem to happen.
That is
so,
true. That's not an excuse to leave all the time, though.
Yeah, I keep trying to get these guys to pay for me to take vacations with my family, but it just doesn't seem to happen. I don't know why they're such selfish assholes, but no. Yeah, I like where OU is with Brandon Ennis. I've had a forecast in for him for several months now. Really, pretty much since kind of you started hearing the returns from the barbecue, it just sounded very positive for OU. You kind of believe they were in the right place with him. And I think, again, it's, it's so funny when we lead off with Dennis Simmons having a rough go here. Yeah, he's got a chance to land the number 4 overall player and number 1 wide receiver in the country, a kid from South Florida next week that's got offers from Alabama and literally every other school on the planet. It's just one of those things. I mean, 2022 has just been weird. I think it's a year he'll probably be glad to be done with, but it doesn't seem like he's doing anything to slow down in 2023 where they've already got Mekhi Lemon. Again, Brandon Ennis will announce on Sunday. I think OU leads. I think that's the safe bet right now. And then, you've got DeAndre Moore out there with Mekhi Lemon and Malachi Nelson. You've got Jalen Hale at Longview, top 30 guy in the country. There are, it's not unlike what we saw early in 2022 at receiver where we said, OU's going to have to make some tough choices here. They're going to have to make some number decisions. OU's going to have to largely do the same thing in 2023. But what's interesting is because you lose 3, do you hold a scholarship back and say, well, we were going to take 4 in 2023 instead we're going to take 5 and just keep as many doors open as possible, kind of learn the lesson of 2022? Or do you kind of fill those spots and say, hey, we're going to stick with the 3 or 4 we were thinking of? So it's going to be interesting to watch how that plays. And in this era, guys, I can't rule out the possibility maybe somebody enrolls a year early. We've seen that happen more and more over the last 3 or 4 years where guys just entirely skip their senior year. If you could get, if you convince Brandon Ennis, hey, man, you can come in here next year, Jaden Hazelwood's off the NFL, Marvin Mims, you're going to be our number 2 wide receiver pretty quickly, and then maybe our number 1 by the time Marvin's gone. I mean, like, that's a pretty good sales pitch. That could work. Now, I don't know if that's possible for Brandon Ennis. I haven't even gone down that road, but that's how open OU can be right now. They've got a lot of options. They've just got to figure out what path they want to take.
It's going to be weird asking if there's a concern in this, but if they're able to get a Brandon Ennis, he'd be the 6th commitment in 2023. Obviously, things are going fantastic in that group. Any worry or any concern that it's 6 offensive guys and they haven't really necessarily hit on the defensive side? And I say that in knowing that, you went and visited a guy like a Javen Taviano just last week, and he's probably one of the best cornerbacks in that class.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, it's not I wouldn't say it's a concern, and I think you know that. But, I mean, it's just like what I was saying a second ago. You get the quarterback, everybody else kind of just comes in around him. I mean, you look at where have committed. You've got 1 running back. You've got a receiver. You've got an offensive lineman. I mean, like, you have a tight end. I mean, you have guys who are directly impacted by Malachi Nelson being there. So I think that just makes everything easier. Now, defensively, I still think there is amongst a lot of elite recruits kind of a wait and see. They want to see what's happening. But I mean, OU is a legitimate contender with Lebius Overton, top 10 player in the country. Jordan Renault, defensive lineman from Dallas. Javian Taviano is a guy that 2 months ago I wouldn't have given OU a chance at. And now if they don't lead, they're right up there with anybody else. I mean, he really likes what he sees at OU. Obviously, OU has some inside help with Braden Willis, that relationship. So yeah, I think OU will be fine, but I don't think a lot of recruits. I mean, God, guys, we were just talking about people not seeing it, amongst college football media, not seeing it nationally. Well, it's no different for recruits. It's even more magnified. Recruits still have it in their head that OU's shaky defensively, and I think we all know that narrative's not going to hold very long.
Did we do a full review of the guys that you went and saw last week on last week's pod? I honestly can't remember.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we did.
We did.
Just making sure. I guess we can do a little bit of a preview of what's coming up next because we are. I mean, my God, the high school season has begun. Yeah.
Eddie, I think you'll be joining me tomorrow going to Mustang Choctaw. Jacoby Johnson offer. Deshaun Brown. I don't know if the offer's ever going to be on the table, but he's about as impressive as you're going to get in terms of defensive linemen within this state. So that'll be a lot of fun. I know R.J. Jackson didn't blow up like the way I really thought he would, but that's still someone for 2023 that I'll really be watching closely.
No doubt. And then I think Friday I'm going to try and get up and see Luke has the tight end commitment from Bixby. They're doing a little mini scrimmage on Friday evening as well as over at the Trojan Preview at Jinx. Gentry Williams, Micah Teese with Booker T, and then a whole host of guys at Carl Albert, Muskogee, and Jinx.
Very nice.
There was a little bit of college breaking news this afternoon coming in from Athens, Georgia. Sounds like they're going to be without Darnell.
Couple names.
Darnell Washington and Tyke Smith in the Clemson game, first week of the season.
So just a first game outage.
Yeah, but I mean, those two guys versus Clemson.
That's a heck of a first game.
Big setback.
But I was just wondering, not for the season.
No, yeah. It sounds like for the first game, and moving forward, it's going to be evaluated.
Well, one thing we talked about, we said we could talk about later, but what came out this morning with Nebraska, overuse of analysts. It sounds like the analysts were taking players out to some abandoned field and holding practices during COVID times. Which,
I mean, the analyst thing I roll my eyes at. The pandemic thing is like, how did these schools think they were going to get away with any of this stuff? I guess that was a well-known thing within Big Ten world a year ago.
We've said it before, Josh has a funny thing he says that we can't say on the air. But there are parts of Nebraska where it's still like 1950. And I think people just think they can live life like it's still 1950, like cell phones don't exist. Live streaming doesn't exist.
You mean like last week when they said they were on a public street and they couldn't take video?
Yes, yeah. When they tried to introduce their alternate uniforms. I never even cared to even bother to look to see who broke that embargo, but surely somebody did.
I never saw anything.
I never saw anything either. And then Tattoo
maybe
Baker
they're just good soldiers.
Tattoo Baker pulled off the ultimate troll job and put the Herbie bouncy whatever thing.
I cannot believe how many national well-respected people paused and said, "Wait a second, is this real?"
I didn't even know it was from something from Reddit 4 years
ago.
earlier.
I had no idea. I had no idea either. It's just amazing to me.
But I mean, Scott Frost, he's got to be the worst cheater in the history of college football.
Which is surprising considering he played at Nebraska in the mid-'90s or the late '90s.
I mean,
it should be instilled in you from the day that you
I'll say this though, bravo Scott Frost. You're not going down without a fight.
And then he started lying about trying to get out of the OU game today.
Did he?
Yeah, he's like, no, I never did that. And
I never made that call.
And then there was an article in the Omaha Herald from Bill Moose, the former athletic director, that It's basically, yeah, we tried to figure out a way to get out of it. He didn't. The athletic director didn't want it to. He thought it'd be a bad look for everybody.
Well, that was
He's
the
on
thing.
the record of that.
That was what our Nebraska people told me, that Scott Frost went over Bill Moose's head to the president.
It's unbelievable. It's not going well. Not going well at all for Scott Frost.
Gus Malzahn's going to win the national title at UCF, isn't he? Because it doesn't take much to coach there, apparently. I mean, I don't know.
That's what we're really learning, right?
Like, anybody can win at UCF.
Anybody? Yeah, probably.
The entire state of Tennessee's butthole is just puckering. They're like, oh, no.
You're next. You're next, Tennessee.
We thought he built something. No, God, no. He didn't even build it. That's the guy that built it.
No, it wasn't Scott Frost that built it. It was, who was before him?
Are you talking about O'Leary forever?
Yes.
George O'Leary?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a good resume builder.
There you go.
Well, sometimes he doesn't have a resume
To use.
Well, the paperwork he's bad at. The resume he's good.
I'm more Mike Price than anything.
Well, he did get in trouble for strip clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what,
That is
That's
your
what I'm saying.
kind of guy.
Yeah. Mike
That's
Price.
your type of scandal is what you're saying.
I'm somewhere in between Mike Price and John Junker, the guy that ran the Fiesta Bowl.
John Junker, yeah. Why didn't we get taken any strip clubs?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I
Probably
guess we
'cause
weren't
John
corporate
Shin and I were
sponsors.
drinking all the tequila in the
Puking it up in my car.
in the what's it called? The
Hospitality suite.
hospitality suite. Yeah.
Yeah. See, Shin would have had to be involved. Like, Shin would have been, like, egging you on, like, no, don't go to your room. Let's have another drink. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, he'd be drinking
He
water.
kept calling me a pussy.
Yeah. That's
So
something
I just
Shin
kept
would
drinking.
Do. Yeah.
You were standing up for the site's honor, and we respect that, Eddie.
Exactly.
What
Nobody
a
ever.
stupid bunch of pussies.
Yeah. Nobody's ever said thank you or you're welcome. What?
You're welcome for throwing up in my car. My brand new car at the time.
Hazing is what it was.
No, but I mean, Scott Frost might be the biggest idiot. I mean, he might be a bigger idiot than Jim Harbaugh,
Yeah.
and that's hard to say.
What's even harder to say is he's probably won more than Jim Harbaugh.
Did you see? I think it was CFB Home listed his top 15 wins,
Yeah, it was like top 18 wins, and there's only 14 of them. It's pretty good.
and I think like South Alabama was in the top 10 of his wins or something like that.
for Frost.
Yes.
Wow.
Like Illinois in 2018 was like his third best win as a coach at Nebraska.
That's not.
That's
good.
because he lost to
And that was
Illinois
like
last year.
that was like an upset, wasn't it? Oh no, it was the other way around. Illinois beating Nebraska
well, they beat him last year. Yeah. Like that's their opener this year. I think that's week 0, isn't it?
It is. It's in 2 weeks.
Oh, that's gonna be nice.
I think it's at 11 a.m. game.
Can you imagine Nebraska fans watching as they struggle with Illinois?
Oh, just
Brett
get ready.
Bielema.
I
Brett
forget.
Bielema, who should be
I forget that he's up there weekly.
the coach at Nebraska, because that's the type of school. That's the type of
Yes.
coach that can have success that Nebraska would be happy with. You want to be Wisconsin if you're Nebraska.
Not flashy enough.
Yeah.
Not flashy enough for those people. Same way that they ran Frank Solich out of town.
Yeah, that was kind of like he was their Gary Gibbs. You're just gonna get run out of town after you follow a legend.
Yeah, a lot better success than any of the
Yeah, but
homeboys
to a
that have been there
national
since then.
championship game.
yeah, but he still was not Tom
Yeah.
Osborne.
I know. It's just wild how that works out.
They had to see how bad it could get before they realized what their expectations should be.
And
they
the sad thing is, it's kind of like we talked about with Sean Callahan a couple weeks ago. It's like, have they hit rock bottom? I don't know if they have. I don't know if it's hit rock
I
bottom.
forgot
yet.
we had Sean on the pod at one point. I think that's when Bob and Josh were both on vacation together.
Yep.
No, I mean, is it to that point though? Like you want to say you hate to see it because it's Nebraska, but at the same time, you kind of laugh on the inside a little bit.
I think I forever think it's funny. It's a dead football program.
I still love the valor they were trying to steal when OU and Texas left the Big 12. Like that was the funniest storyline that came out of that whole thing. Okay, maybe A&M was funnier, but second funniest was Nebraska being like, "We told you guys, the rest of the Big 12 should have listened." Yeah, it's gone awesome for you. Like you've got a lot to stand on. Ever since you've left, a lot of success, guys. Carey is their, the fan of their greatest player since that time. So,
Who, Dominican Sue?
Rex Burkhead.
Oh, Rex Burkhead, yeah.
Rex.
Well, he played in the 2010 Dr. Pepper Big 12 Championship, so.
Did he?
Yeah.
I was thinking he was like
were
11
the
through
days.
13.
You have to go. Yeah, there's nobody then. Because he played in Big 12 era.
Yeah,
It was it Rex Burkhead and who was the other
was
running back?
Levante David? Was he post Big 12?
I think that's right.
Because he's really damn good.
I don't know. I don't want.
I'm not sure
I'm not
either.
even going to bother looking it up because I don't care.
Wow. Well, I mean,
I care about you. I don't care about stupid random Nebraska
No,
facts.
2012. So 2011 would have been his last season at Nebraska. So I guess maybe a year of Big 12, year of Big 10, maybe?
Yeah, he got to play a year in the Big 10 because 2011 was when it all fell apart. Before that season. Yeah, that summer.
That's a lot of Levante David talk.
Outside of that, anything else recruiting-wise we needed to get to? I know, Bob, there's a little bit of hoops news that was floating around yesterday.
Yeah, Porter Moser just doing a really nice job recruiting within the state. Had a kid in from Bixby, 2023 offer, Parker Fredrickson, who's someone who kind of blew up this summer because of the way that he played when they had the live evaluation period, and got a lot of offers. I think coming in, they're hoping for a commitment. That didn't quite happen, but multiple sources have told me that OU is now firmly his leader, and it's going to take something incredibly special to try to knock the Sooners off that perch. So Moser's really starting to make those inroads within the state and all the high school coaches, and starting to really build those bonds.
All right. Well, I know Josh has got to get out of here. It's a good time for us to wrap, so let's do that. And we'll be back again next week as we get even closer to the start of the football season. And we'll continue to keep reporting on it at Sooner Scoop. So check out the website. Bob doing a great job as always. Eddie with the video. A little photo assist from me here and there. Keep checking the boards for all the latest that's going on as well with Josh and myself. We're on there quite a bit. I don't get bothered anymore about never being on the boards. I'm kind of proud of myself a little bit.
Because you've been on the boards.
Yeah. So anyway, plus I've been ornery lately. I've just been wanting to fight with people.
It must be football season.
It's getting close to football. It's not off season where I just want to be left alone. I know I'm in the thick of it. So anyway, thanks to everyone for listening, and we'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com.